7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yo, what's Gucci, fam? This Que Bola, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs who want to understand the individuals winning in the creative industry and want to learn how to attain success in their own pursuits. My name is Darren Figueroa, and my mission is to help you, the creative entrepreneur, find the roadmap to grow and succeed in your own endeavors. We share stories, insights, and tips from established and emerging creative entrepreneurs so you can attain success in your own pursuits. In this episode, Celia Almeida, the newly named editor of the Cultural and Arts Division of the Miami New Times. Celia has shaped the city's arts coverage for years, interviewing legends and uplifting local talent. Get ready for a deep dive into Miami's cultural heartbeat, her journey in journalism, and the stories that make the city unique. Let's get into it, all right? Listo. We're in another episode of the Que Bola Podcast. Thank you so much, Celia, for coming on the podcast, giving me some of your time, letting me know how things is popping off in your world. I really appreciate it, for real.
No, thank you for having me. Que hola, que hola.
Que hola, que hola, papo. You already know what it is, Que Bola Podcast. If you like it, share with your friends. And if you hate it, share with your enemies. Always, like I always say, you know what I'm saying? What's a better way to get back at your enemy, bro? Send them some shit you hate. You know what I'm saying?
But then your enemy will get good advice. And then they might get rich.
That's true. That's true. He might come back at your ass.
Exactly.
So, Celia, recently you were given the opportunity to become the editor for culture and arts for the Miami New Times, right?
Yeah.
That's a major accomplishment, right? But your backstory as a journalist, as an editor, all of that is also highly impressive, right?
Thank you.
So tell me, like, what kicked this off? What made you like want to pop off in the journalism world? Was it like a little young Celia that was the one like, I want to be a writer? Or
Yeah.
what? Or it was?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, but the thing is, we were talking off mic, like,
Yeah.
I grew up in Little Havana, and, I didn't know writers. I didn't know, I knew people who were interested in art and music. My Theo was super into music. But I remember my mom thinking it was very frivolous,
What, like writing?
No, music. Like,
Oh,
because
okay,
I was
music.
super into
Okay.
music. And I was, like, into the creative arts for sure. That was my interest. But I didn't think you could, like, make a gig out of it or anything. But then as a teenager, like, I worked at a bookstore and I like devoured like Rolling Stone and Mojo and all those music magazines.
Yeah.
I always wanted to write about music, but I thought it was like a pipe dream. And then the New Times was how I started freelancing.
Okay.
So and I started freelancing for them in 2016. And I love about the New Times and publications like the New Times is like alt weeklies. They're really great places to get started, you know. So I started freelancing for them, and I had my journey of like working, like writing my articles at 4 a.m., working other gigs to like get started in writing. But after a while, I got into New Times. Like I've done so many jobs at New Times. Like for a while, I worked like doing the concert calendar for them.
Okay.
At one time, I was editing part-time for their like Broward Palm Beach publication when it was online only. And then in 2018, I think it was, I got hired as arts and music editor. And I was there for a couple years. Then I left to another company, which we could talk about. But I was there for 5 years, and then this gig opened up, and I was like, I've done that job before. Like, it's changed a lot, but I was like, I was kind of ready. And New Times always has felt like a home to me. So I came back at basically the beginning of January as the arts editor.
So, okay, but like what drew you back to the role though? Because it's like you already had been through that, right? Mm-hmm. So you already knew more or less the ins and outs of it. And like what brought you back? Like, was it something within the city? Did you see the city changing and you wanted to like tap into that and speak to it? Or like, what was it that made you say, you know what, let me go back to this
Yeah, so one of the things that was cool was they had split when I was doing it before, I was doing arts and music, and then they split the sections again. And my section is called arts, but that's kind of a misnomer.
Okay.
It's really a culture section because I think a lot of people, they see the New Times arts section and they think we just write about like galleries and visual art.
Yeah.
But we do some of that, but that's not really what it is. The art section is a culture section. What is it like to live in Miami? What is day-to-day life in Miami like?
Struggling.
Hustling. But yeah, and then I was at so the job I was doing before was like I worked at a travel media company, so I worked at like travel magazines and that kind of thing, and those were culture stories, right?
Yeah.
When I first got into writing, I really wanted to just write about music, and one of the great things that has happened to me along the way is I've had to expand outside of that, and
why you say great?
Because I didn't think I think I was thinking in a limited way. Like I thought, I always thought I wanted to write about music and artists, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that later I learned like that's one interest of mine. You know what I mean? But like the culture section, I can write about, comedians. I can still write about travel. We do a lot of sex and dating content, all sorts of stuff. It's like and also like. My favorite part of it is all those like weird like things that only happen in Miami.
A lot of those.
A lot of those. Like that we do a lot of that coverage.
Yeah.
So I found that I could write about more than just music, even though I love that too.
And okay, so your initial bug that bit you was music, but were you a musician? Did you play?
No,
Oh, you just loved the music.
I loved music, and I was obsessed with. I was like a nerd about like music criticism. Like I loved reading about it. Like yeah, when I was a teenager, like I would read like Rolling Stone front to back, Mojo front to back. Like I loved to this day, my favorite type of writing and my favorite reading to do is profiles. I love like profiles of musicians, writing about musicians, just like that's just my favorite. And I was like so nerdy about it. So I love the music, but I also loved reading someone's deconstruction of it, and I got into doing that myself as well.
Wow, that's so crazy. You never started like a band or anything like that? You never tried to
No, that's like one of the jokes about like music journalists is like people say, you guys can't play shit or whatever, but which is true. But I always say most people who listen to music, they don't play it, but they feel it, they experience it, they digest it, and so I think it actually kind of is a cool bridge to not know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, because like you're coming at it from a different perspective where you don't understand like the actual process of creating it, so it gives you the opportunity to dissect it in a different manner.
There are a lot of music journalists that play, but I think it shows in your writing whether you play or not. Because you play music, know. After you start playing music, you listen to music differently.
I started playing music when I was 8 years old. I started learning the piano since then. So I guess I never had the opportunity to like look at it differently because like outside of that, the only music I heard when I was legit was maybe like Sesame Street or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So like shout out to Sesame Street though. I love that.
Always.
It taught me English and everything. So, but like I guess I never really had that opportunity, really. But I can see what you're saying. Like, since you come at it a different ways, like never having had pancakes before, and then like somebody introduces you to pancakes, and you're like, "Yo, damn, this is the shit." But it's like it's just dope, bro. Like,
Yeah, and like I think most people who are experiencing music they're not listening to it with the mind of a musician. So I think like writing about it and deconstructing it. I personally have found it helpful that I don't play it.
You know what's funny? That does make sense because I recently started DJing. I started DJing maybe like in January. Shout out to my people, Strange Bass Media, who put me on and showed me how to DJ. And that's my crew, my music crew.
And they've been pushing me for years because I've just been in the producing and like making music part with them, but never in the DJing side. And now, like, the technicalities of DJing, right? You're like a critic and you go out, you're like, oh, that guy's transition wasn't clean. But like
But then
4
you gotta
months
do
ago, 4 months ago, I didn't hear that and I didn't care because I was part of that hoi polloi that I was just like not listening to the music in that manner.
Right.
Right? So like I didn't understand the technical aspect of it. And I didn't really care. Like even if a DJ would slip up, I wouldn't have noticed.
Right.
Which is the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
But now as a DJ, now I'm like, oh, that guy messed up. You know what I'm
So
saying?
you're kind of seeing it. So you didn't experience not, listening to music without knowing how to play because you learned it so young.
Yeah.
But you are seeing kind of that change, right? When you learn a skill set, how you perceive it and process it
become a
differently.
critic. You become a critic. You're
Exactly.
like, oh, I got the skill set now. You're not doing it right.
Exactly. I could do it better.
I can do it better. Yeah, that's true, man. Like, but music is one of those things that I really, really, it's something that transcends like class, right? It transcends like money. It transcends like race, ethnicity, gender, and it just brings people together, right? So I like it for that fact that it's not like you're not like breaking it down continuously, right? As a musician, you are breaking it down continuously.
Yeah.
So you get outside of that.
Right.
But like the rest of the masses, they're like, no, let's all like just enjoy this moment, this experience. How do you approach when you like when you're looking at the cultural landscape of South Florida, of Miami, how do you approach like the changing scene, right? Because you've been writing for a minute. You've been doing this for a while, like more than a decade, right?
It'll be a decade next year since I started writing professionally. Yeah.
Look at that. So like, yeah, you've been seeing the massive change. I was born and raised in Miami, so I know
too.
exactly
Me
what
too.
it is. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So like, in your perspective, what's been like one of those biggest changes that you wouldn't expect?
So that's actually, I don't know if I answered earlier when you asked me, like, why did I want to go back to New Times and to covering, and why I wanted to cover here, because my coverage for the past few years has been more, global.
Yeah.
That was one of the main reasons, right? I was born and raised here. I grew up in Little Havana. My family's all working class, domestic workers, construction, And I see even how Little Havana is changing. And, obviously we see what happened with Wynwood, and we see what's happening with Little Haiti. And I don't know, sometimes I feel sometimes powerless to these forces that are so much bigger than me.
You mean developers?
That's certainly one of them. That's certainly one of them, yeah.
The one?
The one, yeah. And I can feel quite helpless. So sometimes I don't know if it's, a consolation prize, but sometimes it feels good to know that we documented things. And that can make a difference, you hope that it does. And growing up, I could not stand when people would say, and it's usually white people who are from here, that there's no culture here. People love saying that. And my blood would start boiling. And I think it's a privilege, and not just with New Times, with the work that I've done with like all sorts of magazines and publications that we could talk about that too. I feel like a big mission for me has been to refute that.
I feel you. Yeah, no, I did hear that all the time. I still hear it a little bit now, but it's just that like they just don't know. That's what it is. It's like they don't know it, and the culture that we do have is so foreign to them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so South Florida that like I permeate South Florida whenever I travel, right?
Exactly.
So like people know like, yo, that dude's not from here.
Yeah.
Wherever I show up, people are like, yo, where you from? Like automatically, I'm not from here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, 100%. You're not from here. But it's that's basically like what I feel is the same thing with culture. Like they come here and they just they can't connect with it. So since they can't connect with it, then they say it's non-existent.
Or it's very superficial. Like it's like croquetas and that's about it.
But you know what? Miami people do, they really, I mean, this is a knock on a lot of South Floridians, but they really do like harken on the whole croqueta and the whole thing, right?
Listen, I just want to go on the record. I am not dissing croquetas, okay?
The croqueta mafia is gonna come get your ass.
I grew up at Rico Bakery and Pastel Mania, okay?
No, croquetas are the shit.
Yeah,
you know, 100%.
okay.
Nobody's saying croquetas are bad, all right?
But I know what you're saying, though, that it's kind of, it's just kind of a surface level understanding of what Miami is, you know? And also it's like, you know, there's this page I follow, Black Miami Dade, Nadej Green runs it. And I mean, I'm like a white Cuban. I'm half Salvadoran too, but I'm a white Cuban from South Florida. Like I grew up being told that like Cubans built Miami, and the subtext was white Cubans built Miami, right?
Yeah.
And then growing up and encountering the work of people like Nadej Green, I was like, that's not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I feel like that's my work to not only cover what's changing now, but cover what was not covered before, cover the story of this place that is changing, but you can't understand how it's changing if you don't understand how it's already changed, right?
Oh, yeah. Like you have to understand the baseline.
Exactly.
For you to be able to understand. I like that how you take that perspective that you want to like document it and leave it for people to want, you know, in the future be able to come through and be like, yeah, this really, there's a changing point. There's a like demarcation point. This wasn't like this before. So like you covered both mainstream and like underground culture, right? Within first of all, which one do you like to cover more, right? Like which one attracts you more? Like which one do you feel is the funnest? And as a follow-up, like when you're covering them, do you cover them differently or do you approach them with like the same skill set? Or do you like, you have to have a different skill set for each one?
I think I would say, I don't think I have that's a shitty answer, but I don't think I have a preference because there's always something interesting in either one. Like I've covered like huge mainstream artists and that's cool because it's like, it's just cool to be able to talk to this person that has this life experience that somebody like me would have nothing, like, you know, no idea, you know, what that's like. And also public figures like that are like harder to crack because
What do you mean?
They're not trusting, you know, because it's hard for them to open up to somebody, you know? So it's like a challenge when you interview like a big artist to get to a deeper place during that interview. So that's like one of my favorite.
I wouldn't even thought about that.
Yeah, because imagine if you're like a huge artist. I'm talking like, I mean, I interviewed him like before he was as big as he is now, but I interviewed Bad Bunny in 2018.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, for Billboard. And he was big in Puerto Rico already, but not here.
Yeah.
But there's already, because of the fame that he was getting in Puerto Rico, I mean, that was like within like, you know, that was only like a year and a half or something after he was a grocery boy in Puerto Rico, right? But still, you already saw that closing in, nicest guy ever or whatever, but there's a wall that goes up because you don't know what people want from you. Even journalists, there's a way of thinking that journalists are just there to take from you, you know what I mean? Which kind of are, like we're taking a story, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, right? So there's a wall that goes up, and for me, it's really, it's like a challenge when I interview like a mainstream artist like that to try to crack and get to like a deeper human level, right? But then on like the underground tip, I love covering subcultures. It's like one of my favorite things to do. It always has been. And in that side of it, I love, if you think about it, it's a little bit similar. You are not part of that subculture, and you're being trusted enough to, they're letting you into extent into
Yeah.
that world, right? So in that sense, it's kind of similar. I guess kind of the entry point is kind of similar, and I enjoy that on both ends, you know?
That's right. I never thought about like, do you feel like when you're talking to like established artists that they're polished? Like somebody's trying to like have them polished and present that and not be real?
Sometimes, not always. It also depends. There's so many factors. It depends on how early are you. One of the cool things about New Times and the coverage I've done of artists for New Times is like you're still, New Times is a big publication, but it's a local publication. I guess you could say even a regional publication. So like artists that are on the come up, that are just on the cusp,
Yeah.
they'll do an interview with us, right?
Yeah.
And those artists are already blowing up, but not to the point that they get later, you know? So it's like we get them at New Times where they're not super polished yet.
Yeah, they're not
which is
polished
cool.
yet.
Yeah, which is cool. But I have interviewed
Publications,
artists
yeah.
for other publications, and you will get a little bit more of that, you know?
Yeah, like a standard boilerplate answer or something like that.
Or like, you know, the publicist isn't on the call, that kind of thing.
Oh, snap. Damn. I ain't never had a publicist on the interview.
That kind of thing, yeah.
That's wild, dude. So how do you try to like highlight how do you try to highlight an emerging artist in comparison to like to an established artist?
There's probably something about their one thing about like arts publications and music publications is that typically like in the hard news world, like you might get assigned a bunch of stories, right? In the arts and music world, like writing worlds, typically you are pitching artists that you are interested in. Not always, but the majority of the time, you're writing about someone that's something about them has piqued your interest, right? So there's got to be something about that artist that I've seen that I feel, you know, like I feel very name dropping right now.
Go ahead, do it.
But I interviewed
Name droppy.
yeah, like
Drop them names, girl. Let's go. Who you interviewed?
this was also actually probably like around the same year as Bad Bunny, but I interviewed Sabrina Carpenter when she
Ooh.
was like 18, you know?
Okay.
And at that point, she had been on like freaking Disney Channel, Girl
Yeah.
Meets World, but there was just something about her. I actually thought she would pop off like way earlier than she did.
Okay.
And I had seen her songwriting and her piano and like she actually, I don't know if you can tell that much from her like poppier stuff, but she actually has like a really strong voice. So I had heard all that, and I was like, so I pitched her, and she was Disney Channel big, but she wasn't like pop star big, so we
Yeah.
got her, you know? So I just saw something in her that I was like, this is gonna be, I have this clip at the end of the interview where I told her like, you know, thank you so much for making time with me. And I was like, I really feel like I'm getting to talk to someone who's gonna be really big in the world, you
Yeah.
know? She was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then like now I have that clip now that she's so huge.
That's a really good clip to have. Who's the craziest person that you got to interview that you couldn't believe, like, yo, I can't believe I'm talking to this person?
I've had a few. Oh my God. Okay.
All right, top 3 then.
Okay. Okay. I'm like a massive Beatles fan.
Okay.
And after the Beatles, Paul McCartney had this band Wings.
Yeah.
And I got to interview one of the musicians in Wings, Denny Lane. He's actually since passed, but I have that interview with him.
Wow.
And he was like one of those where we were supposed to talk for like 20 minutes and then we hit it off and kept talking, you know, that kind of vibe. I interviewed, one of my favorite interviews was Rosalia.
Damn.
She was like, that was for New Times as well. She was, that was like a junket, you know? It was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, we just vibed. Like, I always joke it was like my Oprah interview because we were both like teary-eyed during it and shit.
Wow.
Like, we really like connected, you know? So that's one of my favorites. And then this was actually one of the first ones I did for New Times, and I still can't believe that happened, but I interviewed freaking Shaka Khan.
Wow, Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. I still can't believe I interviewed Shaka Khan. And and then like And another one was Mavis Staples. That was a big one for me.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah. And like, you know, that's what I love about New Times. Like, I wasn't like a huge writer back then when I did those interviews. I was maybe a couple years into my career, but an artist was coming down and I was like, let me just pitch my editor, and they were down with it. So
you feel that Miami has a lot to do with that? That like we attract so many mainstream artists because we're not. I mean, we are a major city, and people are coming in and out of here 24/7.
Yeah.
So like those opportunities present themselves constantly.
I always say that because I think, well, in so many ways, I think Miami's so underrated. Sometimes now I'm like, maybe let's keep it underrated. Now they're like rating it too much, and you know.
You
like,
feel that way?
A little bit. Part of me is like, oh, I just don't want it to. I want things to get better for everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm very suspicious that this development and improvement trickles down.
Yeah.
Very suspicious of that. So, I don't want it to change too much. You know what I
That's
mean?
hilarious. Very suspicious.
Very.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've been seeing that like on the in the live venue scene. There was a lot of live venues growing up that gave a lot of opportunities to up and coming artists and creatives to expose their art to various people. Shout out Churchill's, one of my favorites, right down the street. And like places like that have slowly been getting shuttered, right? And turned into like another mixed-use development,
Yep.
right? Like
Because we need another one of those.
we need another Walgreens or CVS or lo que sea.
Publix, yeah.
CVS y más. It's coming for your ass.
Exactly.
It's the truth. It's like, yo, you're gonna close this awesome space to put up a CVS y más, but like, whatever, bro. What can I do? I can't buy this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And it sucks because, you know, I think actually, to me, one of the sectors that really has not recovered from COVID
Yeah.
in Miami is those like mid-sized venues. Like, think about it. Like we
Yeah.
used to have freaking Churchill's. We used to have La Rosas. Like
La
we
Rosas.
don't have that anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, I feel like somebody will take up that mantle, but it's taken a while. Like it's taken up a lot longer than I thought it would.
it has taken a long time.
Yeah.
I actually got to interview Caesar, the owner of La Rosas and Wood Tavern and all this, and he really broke it down to me how hard it is to maintain one of those like venues, right? And give that opportunity to the crowds. And I understand, you know, it's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, sure.
But like as a consumer, you don't consider it a business. You consider it like a cultural gem.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm coming over here to like experience like dope shit, right? Like fly, like I'm gonna have a good time. Actually, now that I said dope, shout out Supernatural House, a place that's recently opened that's giving people opportunity, right? But it's like it's so like it's not that many of those, right?
Yeah.
And it's just saddening. It's like
I feel like there's the problem with, and you know, this is like kind of a hard tangent, but I'm like a bird watcher, and
Okay.
I took this like class with Tropical Audubon,
okay.
and they talked about like we had to take like weekly classes online, and they talked about like all the boom and bust development cycles of South Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, and that goes back to the Gilded Age. You know, it's like it is part of like our DNA.
100%, without a doubt.
100%. So I think, but that's also why I kind of deep down have some optimism that there will be some kind of stasis that we reach, you know? But right now, it seems far away.
It seems hard pressed, bro. It seems
Yeah.
hard pressed. It seems like, yo, when is this bus gonna happen so we can have some live venue spaces? It seems, I don't know, it's just like very daunting. It seems very daunting, and it's disheartening for like the cultural scene, because
Yeah.
it's like it puts a damper on it, right? Because people don't want to do things and just keep it in their hard drives. They want to go out and
Exactly,
show
yeah.
the world.
And it's kind of like, I don't know, Miami's always kind of found a way, like obviously, you know, the house party scene here and the aughts and all that stuff, but, you know, I think people are really clamoring for like, where's our space? You know,
100%.
because especially because it just feels like everything they're building is for people who aren't from here, you know?
Or for house music.
Yes.
I mean,
That's true. That's true.
That's my other gripe. Everything, bruh, look, I don't got any beef with house music,
Yeah.
right? House music is good music. It's good music. But it can't all be house music everywhere, dog.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
I can't go to every venue and just like, yo, give me something else. Play some drum and bass.
Yeah.
Do something else, bro. Play some jungle or hip hop or lo que sea. Pero house music everywhere?
But that's the problem too, is like we used to have all that kind of.
Exactly.
We used, you know, so we're like from a generation that remembers when all these venues were, I don't know, not to sound like a grandma, but I don't know what like the youngins do now. Like,
They listen to house music. Everywhere.
Well, they have places to go.
They have so many places to listen to house music, right? Like, so many. They can pick. They have the litter to pick from. But it's like, it can't be just house music everywhere I go. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, we need a mix of venues and so to court different interests. you know,
Yeah.
to cater to different.
It's funny because like now like Broward is taking up that mantle.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing that they've been doing things out there like by chemistry and all those different places. They're actually like saying, okay, like we understand that these kids don't just want to listen to house music.
Oh, yeah.
So we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
give you the opportunity. And now all my friends who like listen to all kinds of alt music, experimental, whatever, they're all going up to Broward.
And you know what Broward has? Mid-sized venues. They have Revolution Live. They
Revolution,
have
yeah.
Culture Room. Like they have places to go. you
Yeah.
know? So we really need that. Like we really need that. I went to I did this story recently about this drag show series that they did at this. I don't know if you're familiar because it's way down south.
Okay.
It's this brewery, Spanish Marie.
No, where's that?
I could not even. It's so far removed south from where I lived. I could not even tell you.
Is it
exactly
like
where
Florida City South?
It felt that far to me. It wasn't that far, but it
Okay.
felt that far to me.
You were about to say, yeah.
No, it's definitely not Florida City. But oh my
Okay.
God, it's deep Kendall. You know what I mean?
Oh
Which,
my God, get
girl,
out of here, bro. You said
for
south.
me, like South Kendall is far because you know I live in La
Like
Havana.
Eureka? Yeah, I hear you. You're like on Eureka. You're like, oh my God, I'm in the Keys.
Exactly. But anyway, we gotta figure out Spanish Marie's address is later. But
Yeah.
but it was so cool because I went and it was I covered it for this. They've been doing a drag series there for 1 year, and the owner like hit me up like, would you guys be interested in doing a story? But I didn't have enough time from the time that I got it to when the anniversary event was gonna be.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, if you have any other events, like let me know. Maybe we can, you know, something. And then they told me that they were doing this like Lady Gaga night, and I'm like the biggest Lady Gaga fan.
All
So
right.
I was like, I'm there.
Yeah.
And then so I ended up writing a story about it. But so I got to go, and I got like the warmest feeling from that experience because it was like a spot. I mean, you know, the brewery was not much bigger than this space. It's a very like cozy, like not a brewery. I was picturing someplace much
Yeah.
bigger, you know, but and it was like a drag night, and it was very localized. Like you could tell everybody who was there was like Kendall people.
Oh,
it was
okay,
not,
okay. I
you
see what
know,
you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was so cool because it was like just, you know, young queer kids taking care of each other, young trans kids taking care of each other, young drag queens, some of them more experienced, some of them starting out. And I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of what we used to have in Miami.
Yeah.
Like where it was that scene was like, this is for us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I feel you.
it made me also remember like what I feel that I've been missing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I brought it to your forefront. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I've been looking for.
So I will be driving. They have the drag shows once a month. I will be driving all the way down there.
Damn, all the way down there
All
to
the way down
Kendall. Not even Color Ridge, DK, freaking Kendall. All the way down there. Yo, I said
Mind
it.
you, I don't mind driving to Kendall, but I just want to emphasize that shit was South Kendall.
South Kendall. You're on Eureka Drive. You don't go past Eureka.
Exactly.
I grew up on 216. You would have never came
Oh,
through
no,
me.
no. No, that's you know when you're like dating someone and they just
Yeah.
live too far away.
You're like, nah,
that's
we
like,
can't talk.
That's a long distance relationship in Miami.
216 to Little Havana. So like so you've come across a lot of people. You're knowing a lot of the scene. What's like? Who's an artist or a creative that you feel that deserves more shine that's not getting any love right now?
Oh my God! Wow, you're really putting me on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The funny thing is that I actually would have said some of the drag queens here because like when that's like one of the scenes that I'm most into in Miami, and like I guess I'm kind of double backing, but like the reason that I loved it down there was because there's very the drag scenes here in Miami are very like there's like the Miami Beach scene, there's like the queens that perform at Gramps, you know, like there's different pockets of drag scenes, and that's actually something I've been wanting to cover, like kind of like suburban drag scenes in Miami. So I feel
That's
like
funny.
that's a very underrated cultural scene.
Suburban
here.
drag queens.
Yes, yeah.
That's funny. I had somebody who was here on staff and he was doing a drag thing at the corner.
Oh yeah,
He was doing a drag thing at the corner, and shout out Cucaracha. I think it's Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. I forgot stage name, Cucaracha something. But I was like, damn, they're doing drag at the corner. Like, yeah, I hosted every Monday
they have
night.
like a huge. I think it's
Thursday
Sundays.
night. Thursday? No, Sunday night.
It's
yeah,
Sundays. Yeah,
you're right. It's Sunday night.
Counter Corner. I think.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, corner. And my boy was actually hosting that. But yeah, I'm like a big ally to the LGBTQ community here in Miami. I feel like it's part of Sazon. You know what I'm saying? It gives Miami that like another like extra oomph of Sazon. Is like another part of the culture. And yeah, I feel like they deserve their due.
Yeah, and perfect example. My sister the other night, she went to Azúcar, and those were like. And
You mean the ice cream place?
No,
Oh.
because there's Azúcar, the one on Calle Ocho, the Celia Cruz ice cream.
Yeah.
But there's Azúcar, the Latin drag and LGBTQ bar.
Where's that?
It's on 32nd Ave, like right past Coral Way.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's two Azúcares, right?
Okay.
But my
I was
sister,
about to say, damn, they're doing azúcar and ice cream. They're doing drags and ice. That's dope.
but she was at Azúcar, and she was like, I was like, oh, what queens? She's like, oh no, I didn't know any of them. And that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Oh,
there's
that's the one
so
across
many-
from the banquet hall.
I think
Yeah,
yes.
It's like by like a garage, like a car garage is right next to it también.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
residential, but I think you're right.
Yeah, by the Winn-Dixie. I know exactly what you're talking about now. I was thinking like, damn, Coral Way. Yeah, I know exactly.
I don't know. My signifier around there is a Taco Bell.
That's by the
there.
door. That's casi like getting like, yeah, you go down the street, you get to US 1.
Yes. I mean, it's like, yeah, I guess it's closer to Coral Way, though.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
closer
yeah.
to Coral Way by the Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So-
my landmark. That's my
The
landmark.
I think that's everybody's landmark. Like, oh, you talking about the Taco Bell Coral Way? You're like, yeah, bro, that should have been there for 25 years.
We could rank all the Taco Bells in Little Havana if you want. I could do that podcast for sure.
Taco Bell, bro. That's the one thing that developers ain't taking away.
Out of my cold day.
Yo, let me tell you. Yeah, exactly. Like, if they knock down a Taco Bell, things is bad.
Exactly. I'll chain myself to the Taco
They'll
Bell.
be like, yo, they take it down to Taco Bell to put up a CVS y más. Like, oh, hell nah, bro. What's going on?
No, that's one step too far.
That's World War III right there.
Yeah.
Nah, but yeah, it's crazy like how South Florida has all these different communities and like and all these little bubbles. Recently, I've been getting into like the anime and the like Comic-Con type their community, and they listen to like very fast, like almost hardstyle music, and then they mix it in with like Japanese anime music.
Right.
And bro, them kids know first of all, they all American.
Yeah.
And they all singing like Japanese songs,
Yeah.
Japanese lyrics, and they know every lyric. I'd be like, yo, what? First of all, do you even know what you're saying?
Right.
Like, what is this guy talking about? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get into the anime world. I've been watching My Hero Academia, and everybody's like, yo, that's the elementary style entry. You know what I'm saying?
You're at the entry point.
I'm at the entry point of anime. But yeah, like it's that little scene it has so many like intricacies. and it's so fascinating to watch like how they interact with each other and how like one like, oh, you're a furry and you're like this, or you're like, oh, you like Sailor Moon, you're a moon person. They actually have a Sailor Moon rave that my boys play.
I know they do. Yeah,
That's crazy.
One of my, because I think we've talked, about my writing, but one of my favorite things about being an editor, especially of the culture section, because it covers so much, is that there's a bunch of shit that I learned from my writers. Like, that's a scene that I don't know anything about. Like, that whole, like, anime con scene.
Yeah.
But, like, now, like, there's one coming up called Otaku Fest.
Oh, yeah, Otaku Fest?
Yeah,
that's
and
big.
then there's, like, Florida Super Con is coming to Miami Beach.
Yeah, that one's big.
That one's big.
Yeah.
I knew that one.
Yeah,
but I don't know
yeah.
any of that stuff, but I'm learning about it now because of
I'll tell you
having
what,
to
though. No shade to the anime people, all right? But my friends, Strange Base, they play those gigs. Shout out Galactic, shout out Lanebot. They played Otaku Fest like 2 years ago, and we went to the rave, right? And it's held like in the hotel convention center. Bruh, there's something about like the anime scene, and it's like an inside joke, but those people, they like to sit in their smell. Okay? I don't even know how to say it and not be offensive, but they legit will be like, you walk, bro, I walked into that hall where the rave was going on, y me pegó like un cicote across the face, like, ragada. I was like, yo, what? And yeah, it's something that's part of the scene. It's legit.
I'm learning because I didn't know that.
It's legit part of the scene. It's like a whole entire thing that like anime people they take showers sparingly, and they carry their smell around. I'm like, and I experienced it that one time. I was like, holy shit, this is for real. So it's like those things you want to know.
I can't confirm or deny because I genuinely don't
I'm
know.
confirming. Okay. I'm confirming. That shit has happened to me. It hit my nose.
Pin it on you.
Pin it on me. Yeah. Anime people, you got beef, holla at your boys. D-Fig, all right? 305 D-Figaro on Instagram. But I love the scene, but it's just like those little things that you're like, damn, this is part of the scene. This is part of the whole culture. This is part of the community. Yep. And just like back in the days when people was like dropping mad rolls and they were pookie heads. And then people would be like, yo, what is a pookie head? And they have like all these little, ¿cómo se llama? Like these collares, the bracelets and all those little intricacies of that particular scene. And then you learn those little things. You're like, damn, okay, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's like that. And I love that Miami has those different things. And when people say things like, yeah, Miami don't got no culture, that's when I be like, yeah, that's BS, bro. You just haven't dove into the culture.
Exactly.
You didn't leave South Beach.
Exactly.
You came here on vacation and you did not cross the bridge not a one single time.
Now they cross because they go to Wynwood.
But that's the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like the beach 2.0. Exactly. I loved Wynwood growing up. That was the spot, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Back in the day when you would actually go get like the art walk and that shit was popping.
Yep.
Popping. And now it's just like, so, it's like, I don't even know. I wouldn't say
whitewash.
It's just like...
Well, it used to be ours and now it's not,
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the perfect example. Like, I've just had, I had somebody recently say like, oh, I mean, you saw what happened with Wynwood. And I thought they were going one way, but they were going...
Oh, it's so good now.
They were like, that could happen in Little Havana. And I was like, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen in Little Havana, bro. 100%. Leave Little Havana as it is, even though they're trying to, but...
Yeah, I saw a thing. I saw a billboard the other day that said West Brickell, and I was like, no.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
Like,
They've been trying to do that.
No,
They've
sir.
been trying to push. No, sir. Get out of here. So, can you tell me a story from your reporting career that profoundly changed your understanding of Miami and its people? That's something that I really wanted to like touch on.
Okay, hold on. I have to think for a second. Because it's like right now I'm in this editor brain too of like the stories I edit too, not just the ones I write myself,
We could come back to that. Talk to me about that. About the editing portion. What does that entail?
So, we have, New Times is a print publication, but it's also so digital now.
Yeah.
You know, so the pace of digital is.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's one of the reasons that I have a heart, because I really have to like sit there and think, because the nature of like digital first writing is like you hit publish on something and you're already on to the next story, you know? It's a pretty intense pace,
Yeah.
you know? So that's, but with editing, like one thing I like about it is editors or writers can come to me with stories that they think are impactful,
Yeah.
and then I have to weigh it against like what are some of the areas that we're not covering too much. There has to be kind of a balance of like different.
That's
topics
your
that we
job
target.
to like make sure that that you're not like leaning in too much into one thing, trying to open up a space for another. So you have to keep that in the purview, but the journalist individual, they're not thinking about that.
I think, because I've been on both sides of it,
Yeah.
I think like you realize that you form kind of a part of an organism,
Yeah.
right? And like the publication is its own little organism, the section is its own little organism, and you know your parts that you're interested in, right? Like I have a writer who's super into, a couple writers who are super into that kind of like the cons
Yeah.
and the, you know, all that stuff. And
They for sure know about the smell. For sure.
I'll have to ask them now.
You think, ask them 100%. They be like, oh yeah, them kids is stinky.
But they'll come to me and I'm like, okay, that's something we haven't really, you know, covered. And then we have another, especially that. We definitely haven't covered that.
Facts. Facts.
And then we have other writers I have another writer, Asha, who does our sex and dating stuff.
Okay.
And that's really fun because she'll take like columns. She writes columns and
Okay.
takes like call outs from people, and people will write her like the craziest emails about, you know,
Like the Dan Savage dude?
kind of similar to that. Yeah, but that's a good callback.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, I've been reading New Times from back in the day.
I can-
Dan Savage
for
was
sure.
his column was crazy. He would be, bruh, let me tell you. Let me not tell you.
Oh, I used to read them too.
Yeah, he'd be like, yo, what? People
Yeah.
wrote you this?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And then when I was freelancing, I would write a lot about like music, but I always loved to write about like pop music, Americana, Latin music, you know. But I had writers who were, and I was a super like rock and roll girl, but more like classic rock, you know.
Okay.
So I'm like such a boomer with that kind of stuff, you know.
Like, what was the radio station? Zeta?
Oh yeah, 94.9
94.9
Zeta. Oh my
Zeta.
God,
That was the
throwback.
classic. Yeah, it was the rock station.
Yeah.
People were so upset when that shit went off the air.
Yeah.
Really upset.
I was
People-
more boomer than that though. I was like Magic 102.7.
Magic 102.7.
and
too.
1059. What was
It
it?
feels like
1059?
radio's just like también has disappeared off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
It's like Spotify se lo comió entero.
Yeah. Well, also like because now you could listen to whatever you want to, you know. So and also like podcasts. Like you want to listen to.
That's true.
know?
Podcasts
Yeah.
and music. But what I did like about radio was that every so often, right, it would introduce you to a song or two that was not on your radar, right? And that's one thing that I kind of enjoyed because it like took me out of my like comfort zone, right? Like, bro, I was growing up in the hood listening to a lot of Trick Daddy and like Jeezy and all this other stuff. So like when I would hear like, I don't know, Incubus or something, I wouldn't go out to look for Incubus, right?
right.
But I would go on to like Zeta or whatever and I would hear that song like, damn, that's a pretty dope song. And that wouldn't come onto my radar regularly. Now I feel like I'm more in my own little bubble musically, to be honest with you, because like I just hit the same playlist that I'm listening to continuously, right? As a DJ now I'm like, okay, now I gotta go scour the corners of the internet to try to hear the new things. But up until that point, like 4 months ago, I was not doing that.
Right.
I was stuck in my nostalgia, like 90s hip hop golden type. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, yes, it's one of those like things that fell to the wayside.
And I actually do that now. Like I turn, because I love being suppressed, especially like I love a light FM moment. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I love just like hit me with like, rocks that must have been love.
Yeah.
I love being surprised by that song. You know what I mean? So I do that now, but like
Yeah.
obviously you don't do it as much. You play
No.
your podcast on
Yeah.
whatever songs
Yeah,
whatever
you're just
songs you
playing what you normally listening to, and you're stuck in your bubble.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get out of that bubble.
But it's
and
nice
funny.
to be surprised, and like radio surprises you. So
Sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because the more options you have, the more you retreat into your bubble, which is wild.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I'll be like, what mood am I like to listen? And I can't pick a record because I'm an album person. I like front to back albums.
Oh, you listen to the whole
yeah,
album?
yeah, totally.
Lies.
Yeah. No, yeah.
For real?
Yeah,
To this
yeah.
day?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't listen to like, no. I told you I'm a boomer. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
You won't listen to a single. You listen to the whole album.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
yeah.
and it's like, that's it. Yeah. And oh, what album are you listening to? The same one I've been listening to for 3 months. It takes me a while. So, but yeah, I do that. I'll be like, oh, what do I want to, and I get stumped because we have so many options, Like, I don't know what mood I'm in, like
Exactly.
what record to,
So you just go back to the good old, good old winner
Yep,
that you've
yep.
been listening to since you were like 12 years old.
Exactly.
This,
yeah.
I know this is gonna make me feel good, so I'm not even gonna roll the dice.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. That's the way that things is working. So, like, in terms of moving forward, right? What as the editor, you've been named. What is it like? What do you see your vision? Are you trying to like sculpt the art section to a certain thing? What's your like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, ideally, I really want to showcase, because I think back to what we were saying about the people who ignorantly say that there's no culture here. Not only do I want to show there's culture here, I mean, it's sad that you have to even say that or prove that or make it evident.
Yeah.
But let's say we do. Not only do I want to show that, I also want to show that it's always been here. You know what I mean? And that it's not only one thing,
Yeah.
and it's not just, Cuban, even though I'm half Cuban, but
Yeah.
it's not just that. That's
Yeah.
not what Miami is. Miami is a lot of things,
Yeah.
There's so many, there's just so many sides of Miami that, and I'm born and raised, but as you know, Miami's really segregated, really isolated in many ways, siloed, I would say. So there's so many sides of Miami that I'm constantly like learning more about. And if I have like a major goal, it's to expand more of the voices that are shaping the culture section.
Okay.
We're always looking for new writers, and I want the writers to be like increasingly diverse, because Miami's not one thing; it's many things, and I want us to be able to touch on all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
dope.
there are some things that like just because they're happening, we do have to cover them. Like, there are certain developments opening that we'll have to cover because it's what's happening. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm not saying that we're not going to cover that, but I also want to make sure that I want to be able to showcase the identity of Miami as much as we possibly can, because I think it's very misunderstood. It's very oversimplified. It's complex, and I want to showcase that.
And what do you feel would be like one of the major challenges to be able to accomplish that?
The major challenges for sure, making sure that we are getting as diverse voices as I would like. We're not there yet, in my opinion, but it's something I'm working on. And also, like, part of the challenge of my job is I can have all the interest and passion that I have, but our readers have to show interest in those topics. Because at the end of the day, if people are not clicking on those stories and showing that people care about those stories, I'm gonna probably, the data's gonna say people don't care about this. I think people do care about it, but people have to show it,
That's
And
crazy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
a
that's
huge
wild, yeah.
that's a huge challenge.
Yeah,
That's a huge
100%.
challenge.
No, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, because you want to try to like diversify and you want to try to, but yeah, if the masses are like, nah, we just want the same old, you have to give the people what they want.
Yeah, my hope is that we can give the people what they want, but also put the rest of it there so that they can see, wait, hold up, this is on. I think I'm interested in this too. You know what I mean? That's my hope. But I mean, the industry's changed a lot. You know, people are on social a lot.
Yeah,
I need them to read stories.
I feel you. I feel you. I
Yeah.
feel that it's hard to get people to read nowadays. Period.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's just a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Getting people to read. Like, what you mean? I can't just watch this video for 15 seconds and it's gonna give me everything.
But
It's
I
like-
will say one thing that's cool about New Times is they've really like beefed up their social media coverage. Like we have our social editor Anna Magluta. She's brilliant, and the way that she's reshaping our stories to put on social media. Like I feel like that's I don't have the social data, but
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's expanding the audience because some people don't get their news by going on our site. They get it by following us, So it's like that's important too.
Well, if you ever need an in-person interview or holler at your boy, I'll be out there talking to people and you could catch me on the video. I ain't too good on the writing side. You know what I'm saying? I think I got a C- in English.
But that's what's good is like I really do feel like now New Times is doing all of it.
It's trying to go into that world.
Yeah.
That's good because I do remember a time where New Times was like staunchly against that. Where they were just like, we're a publication and we're all about like the print media.
I don't know how against it they were because I wasn't privy to those conversations, but what I do know is how it's changed, and I think the change is stark. You know
That's
what I mean?
what's up.
Yeah. So, and I think it's great. But it just people. I think we have to have a direction that we want to go, but people's feedback also really matters. They also let us know like what they're interested in not.
Yeah, that's awesome. I champion that because like the city needs a publication like New Times because 100% you guys are the realest out there, and for real, like in terms of like talking truth to not only talking truth to power, but talking truth to like what's going on the ground floor, like underground. Is New Times, right? Like I know Grant Miller, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a Miami community. He's not talking about that shit. You know what I mean? He's not going to talk about that. I know Grant. I love Grant. Grant, holla at your boy, man. He had me on his show, and he interviewed me for Oro Fresco and all of that. But Grant ain't going about doing that, and those other publications aren't going about doing that. So it's like, the onus falls on Miami New Times to like carry that mantle.
It's a really unique voice for sure. And like it's like the spirit. I mean, it's definitely, like I said, I think we have like a newer way of reaching out to people, but it's still an alt weekly, and an alt weekly has a very particular voice and a very particular,
way about doing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A way of covering the city too. Like
yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Celia, for coming and talking to me.
Yeah.
Giving me a little bit of your insight, and letting me know how it's popping off in the new world. If you want people to holler at you, are you open for collaborations? Are you you said you're looking for journalists. How do people go about like submitting something to you so you could like consider them?
Yeah, so we're always taking pitches from new writers. Typically, if it's a new writer, we ask them to send us clips if they have them, because I have,
What do you mean clips?
past stories you've written for
Oh,
other
okay.
publications. But some writers that come to us, I mean, New Times was the first place I wrote to. The only clips I had were like little blogs I wrote in college for free. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I sent them that because I didn't have anything
Yeah.
else. Whatever you have, if you have clips or if you don't, but you're interested in writing, we're always interested in hearing, and they can email me directly, Celia Almeida at Miami New Times, or the respective section editors. We have our food editors. Some people want to write about food. We're searching for a music editor right now.
I saw you guys have my dog, Burger Beast, became a collaborator for the food.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean on social or in the...
No, in the writing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He became a collaborator. I saw on his thing. I follow him on my IG.
Yeah.
I had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's big on food. He's a big foodie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, depending on which editor you want to reach out to, you can email us directly. And
like if they send it to you, would you redirect that to that person, or like is there like a top dog?
I certainly could, but
Yeah.
I think the easiest way is to, if you want to write about food, reach out to our food editor, Nicole.
Oh, okay.
We will have a music editor soon, and then you can, and the music one.
Oh, I saw the music editor is
Jose.
Jose. He's leaving.
Yeah, he just left, Jose Duran.
Yeah, he was there for a minute.
He was there for almost 17 years.
Woo.
He was my mentor. I love Jose to death.
Yeah.
So that's been tough, but I'm excited for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we will have a music editor soon, and then you can reach out to him directly. Anything culture-wise, they can reach out to me.
That's so like
It's broad.
expensive. Yeah.
It's broad.
Like
It's
anything
broad.
culture-wise.
Yeah. I do have just a quick rundown like sex and dating, travel, comedy, kind of miscellaneous cultural events, wellness, fitness, any kind of stuff like that. That all falls under
And
my
food is
purview.
not under culture?
Isn't that weird? No, it has its own thing. It has its own thing, and it's people love that food section. Let me tell you.
I hear you.
Yeah, so they can reach out to me directly, and I pretty much switched my Instagram to just work stuff only.
You
so
guys
if they
have a
wanna follow
hustler
me.
editor? Somebody who's teaching you how to make money out here? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's hard. Things is getting tough out
We
here.
all need that. I need
The
a hustler editor.
These are the new hustles for you to pull in Miami. They should add that to the Miami, the best of Miami, the best hustles to pull off in 2026.
And you know what? I've done like a lot of, I was saying to you earlier, like that I have done a show on Jolt Radio, Too Much Love.
Shout out John Joe, my boy.
Exactly. Shout out to John with Flor Francis. That's her baby. Too Much Love is her baby. But I haven't been co-hosting because I just started that new gig and I'm getting my bearings still. But, I do that too.
Yeah.
So I've been in, the roles reversed. And so I'm always hustling too,
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what Miami is like. You got to have like 2 jobs and then another side hustle. It's like you got to be doing all kinds of things to survive out here.
Your side hustle needs a side hustle.
Facts. You need like 3 side hustles. Yeah, one of them need another side hustle by itself. It got to be like a derivative of the side hustle. But yeah, thank you, Celia. What's your handles?
Okay. I think it's just follow me at Celia is just a fan.
At Celia is just a fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Celia, for your time. Once again, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a great talk. It was fun and insightful. I hope that the community gets some like golden nuggets out of it. And yeah, if you guys want to, try to contribute to New Times or whatever, holler at Celia and see if you could get on, if you're good enough, bro. 100%. They ain't just gonna let anybody in here, bro.
We do love to mold, though.
Yeah. That's funny. We like to mold. You guys are nice. I'll be like, yo, you suck, bro. You need to step it up.
I didn't say that's part of molding.
I guess.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Like I always say, if you love it, share with your friends, and if you hate it, share with your enemies. But just share this mug. We out on this mug. Peace.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Que Bola Podcast. Huge thanks to Celia for sharing her insights and stories about Miami's vibrant arts and cultural scene. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to check out more episodes on joltradio.org every Monday at 12 and follow us for updates on upcoming guests. Thank you for listening. Hasta la próxima. Que te crezca. Love ya. Peace.